The West African landlocked country of Burkina Faso, with an area of 274.200 kilometers since our independence in 1958, has been marked with a series of military coups. Tonight, we dig into the possible causes of military coup in Burkina Faso. That is my lone top story, ladies and gentlemen. Hello there, and welcome to joining us on the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on For You Television. We begin this day throwing our news tentacles from Burkina Faso, where Burkina Faso's self-declared military leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, has accepted a conditional resignation offered by Lieutenant Colonel Henry Damiba to avoid further violence after Friday's coup. This is with you, Jix Nabise.
Faso's self-declared military leader Captain Ibrahim Traoré has accepted a conditional resignation offered by President Paul Henri Damiba to avoid further violence after Friday's coup. The announcement was made by religious and traditional leaders on Sunday, October 2nd, 2022. According to the deal announced at the press conference, Traoré had agreed to 7 conditions, including a guarantee of Damiba's safety and the security of soldiers who backed him, as well as the honoring of promises made to the West African Regional Bloc to return to constitutional rule by July 2024. According to sources, Traoré said earlier that order had been restored after violent protests against the French embassy and days of fighting as his faction moved to topple the government. Split had emerged within the army, with many soldiers appearing to seek Russian support as the influence of former colonial master France wanes. At least 3 separate videos shared online on Saturday and Sunday showed soldiers atop armored personnel carriers waving Russian flags while the crowd chanted "Russia, Russia." The videos as of now are yet to be verified. Traoré's team urged people to halt attacks on the French embassy targeted by protesters after it was rumored France had sheltered Damiba at a French military base in the West African country and that he was planning a counter-offensive. The French Foreign Ministry denied that the base had hosted Damiba after ouster on Friday. Damiba also denied he was at the base, saying the reports were a deliberate manipulation of public opinion. Another statement said Traoré would continue to act as president until a transitional civilian or military president is designated in the coming weeks. Ouagadougou was mostly calm on Sunday after sporadic gunfire across the capital throughout Saturday between opposing army factions.
The coup d'etat in Burkina Faso on September 30, 2022 has evoked sad memories of past military coups in the country, which has always been successful. We are told that Burkina Faso has for several decades now been identified as a melting pot of military coup. Our reporter, Photo, has the rest of that story for us.
The succession of coups that Burkina Faso has known for 60 years is impressive. From December 11, 1959, date of the proclamation of the First Republic of Upper Volta, to October 15, 1987, date of the seizure of power by Captain Blaise Compaoré, different political regimes succeeded to one another, sometimes born of street movements, but very often military coups. The First Republic, the presidential regime of Maurice Yameougo, installed in 1960, was carried away by a vast popular movement born on January 3, 1966. Following these troubles, power was instructed to the military. It was the first military coup, followed by several others. After the proclamation of the Second Republic in 1970 by General Sangoulé Lamizana, instability continued on its merry way, so the following decade saw 4 coups d'etat take place. The coup led by Colonel Saye Zerbo on November 25, 1980, the coup d'etat of August 3, 1983, which will bring Captain Thomas Sankara to the head of the National Council of the CNR Revolution, on which the country was renamed on August 4, 1984 in Burkina Faso, and finally that of October 15, 1987, led by Captain Blaise Compaoré, and who was marked by the assassination of Thomas Sankara Sankara. In 2022, on January 24th, President Rochmark Christian Kabore, elected in 2015 and re-elected in 2020, was overthrown by a new coup d'etat with the approval of the street and in the general silence of its own camp. Burkina Faso then experienced a new military regime headed by Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, a former member of the former RSP, which he had however left after the 2011 munities. When he came to power on January 24th, also in a press release read by armed men on television, Colonel Damiba had promised to make security his priority in this country undermined for years by bloody jihadist attack. This tactical pattern was repeated on the evening of September 30, 2022, when the new strongman Ibrahim Traoré, accompanied by his troop, gave instruction on national television following a series of munities in the barracks in the early hours of the same day. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, 30 years old officer, now president of the Patriotic Movement of the Safeguarding and Restoration of the MPSR, a second coup d'etat which intervenes in the space of 8 months after his eviction. Lieutenant Colonel Damiba is now a refugee in Lomé. As in Mali, waves are rising today in Burkina Faso to demand from the new authorities greater military cooperation with Russia, with the feeling that France has failed in his mission.
Quite a challenging moment out there in Burkina Faso. Now, let's leave Burkina Faso to go over to Chad, where delegates at the Inclusive Dialogue have resolved to extend the transition period towards a democratic elections as they wrap up 3 weeks of intense deliberations. Now, were their decisions unanimous? Let's get the answers in this report. It has been 3 weeks of extensive and heated deliberations among the sons and daughters of the Republic of Chad to decide the future of their nation. For sure, decisions and resolutions may not be unanimous, especially with issues of national interest. Aside the decision by the delegates to have agreed for the military leader to be eligible to run for the presidency in due elections, the fate of the transition was equally brought to the fore.
On the transition, he says, the Commission noted that there was a broad consensus to set it at a maximum of 24 months. The second point concerns ineligibility or eligibility. A consensus was reached that any Chadian who fulfills the conditions set by the law should be eligible to vote and be elected.
Nevertheless, the National Reconciliation Dialogue Forum witnessed the boycott by most opposition members, 2 out of 3 key armed rebel groups and civil society organizations. Fear is rife of another possible tension following the decisions arrived at the National Dialogue table, according to Chadian political analysts who think political parties, civil society and African Union might reject Debby's eligibility to run or the extended transition period. Chad, one of the world's poorest countries, has endured repeated uprisings and unrest since gaining independence from France in 1960. It is therefore hope Chadians will certainly learn to grow up and change the destiny of their nation regardless of the implications from foreign partners. We go over to Nigeria, where we are told that thousands of Nigerians filled the streets of Lagos and other cities on Saturday to support one of those vying for the presidential seat. We are talking about Peter Obi. According to them, he is the best candidate amongst the old brass gunning for the top job at the presidency of Nigeria. Details in this report. The campaign bells are ringing as Nigerians prepare to go to the polls come 2023 to decide the new captain of their ship as Muhammadu Buhari steps down after 2 terms in office and failing to meet the hope and aspirations of his people. To many Nigerians, Peter Obi offers an alternative to the old guard candidate put forward by the PDP and APC parties.
Yes, you have suffered a lot. We don't want to suffer again. Peter Obi has come to save the Nigerians. We don't want bribe. No more bribe. Things are expensive. We want a man, a governor, a president that will hear the voice of the masses.
Peter Obi is different from the other politicians. Yeah, because we have seen a track record of how he spends money. Because the problem of Nigeria is because people loot, our collective patrimony. So P2B is different, and the whole of Nigeria now knows that he's going to rescue Nigeria.
However, Nigeria has for over the years been battling with high inflation, lack of jobs and insecurity, which has forced many Nigerian youths to flee the country as a result of frustration with politics and apathetic about change at the ballot box. Electoral authorities say 70% of newly registered voters for 2023 are aged between 18 and 34. Nigeria, the most populated African country, may not have all that a nation desires, but at least should not be a land where the rich continues to be richer and the poor continues to be poorer, thus achieving the kind of Nigeria they all desire, according to political analysts, should be decided in the ballot box and not on the street or election boycott.
On our sports pitch tonight, CAF President Dr. Patrice Motsepe has promised a fair and consistent process in the race to replace Guinea as the host of the 2025 AFCON. This is after Guinea was stripped of the hosting rights for not being prepared. Just how did Guineans receive the news? Let's follow this report.
Like the sound of a trigger, the news break of Guinea being stripped of the hosting rights of the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. Then reassurance came in from CAF boss Dr. Patrice Motsepe of a fair and consistent process in the race to replace Guinea. Guineans have had mixed reactions on the issue, as a football fan attests.
This is a surprise for me, he says, because it was already confirmed, and the country has now begun to work to put the infrastructure in place, including stadiums, also roads. So if we hear this news, it is sad for us, for Guinea.
To another, the decision from CAF is fair, given to the state of insecurity the West of Africa is currently battling with.
In fact, the removal of AFCON 2025 from Guinea is not a surprise, he says, because given the time we have, 2025 is close, and then the infrastructure to be complete. In fact, our country cannot complete these projects in this short time.
Algeria has already declared its intention to host the tournament, but shall certainly face stiff competition in winning the bid, as Morocco, Nigeria and Senegal are equally in the race of hosting the biggest soccer party in the continent come 2025.
Sport reports put a wrap to today's English Primetime Newscast on For You Television. I want to thank you all immensely for your kind attention. God willing, I shall be here again tomorrow. Until then, God bless Africa. Bye-bye.